we implemented what Todd has coached into our business, and it's taken us from a $12,000 average to $27,000 average. Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, America's #1 podcast for new real estate investors, where we know that finding discounted property is the most proven path to financial freedom. I am your host, Brent Daniels, and I am telling you, if I can do it, so can you. And I'm extremely excited. We have the absolute best mind, the absolute our mentor, the mentor to the mentors on this podcast here today. It is Mr. Todd Toback. Todd, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. And as always, I'm very, very, very excited and thankful to be on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. And you are right. This is the #1 wholesaling podcast for new real estate investors. And awesome. Love talking to you, TTP, Mr. TTP. Always get lots of energy here. And I'm ready to bring some value to you if you're listening to this as a newbie and you want to make more money, you want to do more deals, you want to expand and see your net profits explode. We're going to give you the secret today, okay, the levers that you can push to drastically increase your net profit. And I know that you hear that a lot, okay, but I'm telling you, I've been in this business since 2001, and what we're going to talk about today is the #1 thing that you can do to radically transform the amount of money that you're taking out of your business every single month.
And what we're talking about is massive deals. All right. And I define massive deals as a $50,000 minimum net to you wired into your account deal. Okay. And Todd's going to break down. Todd is, I mentioned that he is the mentor to the mentors. I mean, truly, Todd, we implemented what Todd has coached into our business, and it's taken us from a $12,000 average to $27,000 average. And he's going to break down the 4 things that you need to implement, the 4 steps that you need to implement to start getting consistent, massive deals. And I'll tell you, Todd, you know, with as much effort as we have, as much cold calling as we're doing, as much texting as we're doing, as much lead follow-up and referrals as we get, every single quarter we get a massive deal. And I'm telling you, it has changed the landscape of our business every single time. I mean, we've had some that are over $150,000 deals off of one seller. And I know that you do these deals all the time. I know that you specialize in these, and you really dissect what it took to be able to get these opportunities. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the 4 ways people can start getting massive deals.
So real excited, Brent. And before I jump into the 4, you know, I really want to encourage you. You know, a lot of people out there, they brag about the number of deals they do. And hey, that's great. We want to celebrate wins, right? And high five, and a positive mindset's going to be really, really, really important. But what's most importantly, actually, is what you're going to be bringing home at the end of the month, right? I mean, Brent, you are the #1, and not to make this a love fest, right? But Brent, I mean, you're the #1 coach in the entire country for talking to teaching people how to cold call, right?
Yes.
And so after all those hours of phone calls and, you know, going through the no's and the maybes, and finally you get the one, right? Which is awesome. And you got someone who's ready to say yes. Well, you better maximize that one. Right? It's like you better maximize that deal. And so I'm going to teach you 4 ways. There's actually many, many more ways, which we're going to actually talk about on how you can find out. But we're going to give you 4 today, right, to actually maximize this profit. So one of the things that I talk about is you want to create this pressure, right? This internal like combustion engine, right? That's always putting pressure on what you expect out of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a lot of people out there, right, like think about what you're comfortable with your monthly income, right? For some people, right, they're okay with $2,000, right? They're living with mommy and daddy in their basement, right? And they're okay making $2,000 a month because they could do whatever they want to do. They've got no kids, not married. They live with mom and dad, right? Most of America is addicted to making $5,000 a month. Right.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that's right or that's wrong, but if you're listening to this, you want more, right? You want to make a middle 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure income, right? You have big aspirations. The problem is that most of us, all of us, whatever that zone is, we have this internal temperature of what we think our income should be, right? And because of that, we have this internal temperature of what we think our deal size should be.
100%.
So someone goes in and notice, like, if you're always doing $7,000 deals, somehow magically you always make $7,000 or $8,000, right? If you're doing $10,000 or $15,000 magically. So what do you think happened? You think like a lightning struck, and these sellers who just showed up gave you a deal in which it will enable you to make the same amount of profit that you always make, and your cash buyer gave you the exact amount, right? No, right? You set the tone, your internal temperature. And so you're like, okay, duh, Todd, how can I change this, right? Well, anything that's been created, anything that's wonderful has first been dreamed in the mind, right? So let me give you an example, and hopefully we didn't talk about this on camera, right? But Brent, let me talk a little bit about your cabin that you have,
yes.
Right? Yep. At some point, did you decide that you wanted a cabin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I've been thinking about it forever. I grew up, my grandparents had a cabin. They sold it when they got older. There was, Phoenix is very hot. I've got young kids. We want to get out of the heat. So, having a cabin is like the biggest blessing you can have, living in the desert, when you can go to the mountains and spend time with the family and get out of the heat. So yeah, it was firmly planted in my mind.
Firmly planted, right? So all of a sudden, Mr. TTP on the phone generating leads. What magically appears, Brent?
What magically appears is these opportunities. I mean, when you are every single day being proactive and not just reactive, waiting for opportunities to come your way, you get opportunities. And I start thinking in my head, this is one step closer to having enough to buy a cabin, for sure.
Well, wasn't that like a TTP lead though, the cabin, or no? Or was I wrong about that?
No, that wasn't. It was off the market. I called, absolutely, for sure. I called, but I saw that it came off the market. It wasn't a distressed seller. I talked to the real estate agent, but they had taken it off the market because good
enough, right?
Wasn't selling. Yeah.
But here's the point: is that there was this pressure from what you wanted, right?
Yep.
And because there was this want, right? Your actions then dictated, right? So you did a cold call to a real estate agent. You didn't accidentally see this expired listing, right? You went and you locked it up. And what do you know? The whole Daniels family is now living in a wonderful cabin, right? And so go ahead.
$75,000 under appraisal value.
Boom.
Yep.
Right. So what I'm going to ask you to do is you must put internal pressure on what you expect from a deal, right? So if you're making 10, what I automatically want you to do is say, I'm going to do 30 or 50 or $100,000, and say this in your mind. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second, because once you make this decision, you make this commitment, the way you negotiate with a seller, right, is drastically going to change, right? It's not going to happen overnight, but there's going to be this tension that's always going to be pulling you, right? Pulling you towards that goal. And then when you lock up a property, and let's say you normally get X amount or this percentage of ARV, or your buyers normally pay this much, you now, because that pressure is still there, Brent, you now negotiate on a different level. And this is something that we talk about in the No Limit Selling System. If you want to find more about that, actually go to convertwholesaledeals.com, convertwholesaledeals.com. I go into this in depth there. But so you want to create that tension. So how do you do this, right? Well, obviously we have this faulty programming in our mind right now. And this faulty program always takes us back to our default. And maybe it's not even faulty, it's just the default, right? Yep. So what we need to do is we need to physically program, okay, or reprogram ourselves for a new default. The problem is that our brain loves to go back to the default.
Of course.
Right? So we must program it and reprogram it and keep going. It's like this. My daughter's just getting her braces off. She has to put in a retainer. Okay. And so we do this, okay, by saying affirmations. Okay. So what are affirmations? I did this with one of our clients here who actually started off in convertwholesaledeals.com. And I had him write down, because his deals were just kind of weak, the size of them. I said, I want you to say that you make at least $50K per deal. Okay. So at night, I want you to write this down along with all your other affirmations, right? I want you to say, I make at least $50K per deal, and I'm extremely happy every time I lock it up. right? I feel great about making $50,000 per deal because I'm offering value to the seller, right? I feel great about making 50K per deal because it enables my business to make a large net profit and also thrive, and enables me to hire people, right?
Yep.
And so he also had some issues about making that much, right? But he started to say it out loud, and he said his affirmations in the morning and at night. Okay. And by the way, you can do this for any area of your life. Okay. But if we're going to say very, very specific on this. And so whatever size deal you want to focus on, okay, say it, write it down, and meet it. And it has to be 3 steps. Number 1 is you have to have a dollar amount. Okay. Number 2, you have to write it down. Number 3, you have to say it. Okay. And you have to do it every single day.
Absolutely.
Every single day. Right.
Well, and I talk, one of the things that I talk about with my TTP family members in the TTP program is, in this business, you truly find what you're looking for. You know what I mean? It's that whole thing that, like, when your wife's pregnant or you're pregnant, you see pregnant people everywhere. Or you buy a truck or a car, you see that truck and car everywhere. It is the same thing when it comes to doing these massive deals. And I am telling you, the first big check I got was just over 40,000, and my mind exploded. Literally, I could never. It was destroyed. It could never be put together the same way again. Like, it was. That's what I want for everybody listening here. That's what I want for everybody in the TTP family. That's what you're talking about, Todd, is that first, getting to that point where you believe and you have faith that you can do it, and you cross that bridge to where it is a fact and you get a massive deal. You know you can do it again and again and again. And $61,000, Todd. $61,000 is the average household income in America. And people can do deals that size from one call, from one lead, from one opportunity, from one chance, right? But you're not going to get to those deals if you're not putting it in your head that you deserve it, that you are able to do this, that you're going to find and solve the problems of the property owner, and you're going to get paid really, really well. Because I think the toughest part that people have, Todd, is they go, I can't believe I'm making this much money. I feel like I'm taking advantage of these sellers. Right?
Well, it's funny because sometimes my wife, she's like, she'll ask me like how my day went, and I'll talk about the business in a certain way, and she's like, Todd, like, you're like immune to money, and I'm like, no, I'm just always raising my standards, right? I'm always, raising my standard. By the way, I think gratitude is really important, right? And I think that you need to be thankful for what you have, but you always need to be resetting the bar. Right. Resetting the bar and understanding that you cannot let yourself go back to the default. Right. And going back to the whole guilty thing about, worrying about making too much money. That's part of affirmations. Right. So so whatever that is, right, you have to decide, right, how you're going to operate your business and what parameters you want. We don't really have time to go into like the ethical obligations of you making 50 or 100 or 200, because frankly, there's guys right now who are making $500,000, $1 million, $10 million real estate deal who are actually laughing at us talking about making 50K a year.
I know. Well, right? And we hallucinate, right, Todd? We hallucinate and we assume we know what's best for the seller, or what will make the seller's life better, or that money and giving them more is going to somehow make them happier. It's absolutely not true. Stop hallucinating. Have conversations with these sellers and see how you can solve their problem.
Absolutely.
Stop hallucinating. Stop.
And it's we just did a massive deal up in Riverside, California. And it's funny because the guy at the end, I was like, I wasn't sure I wanted to do the deal because he wasn't sure about a place that he was going to move to, and I was making a lot of money, and I tried to throw this deal away like 4 times. Right. I tried to throw it away. And it's funny because I've been on the phone with my team right now because of the way the market is. Right. And I just want to show them what's possible. Right. Show them what's possible. You can do bigger deals. And literally the guy was like, no, like, I want to do this deal. Right. And we're going to do very, 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 very well on it. And you know what? I feel great about it. He feels great about it. And guess what? Right. It's above that 50K mark. Right. So I want to encourage you. Okay. Reset your internal thing. You're like, Todd, it can't be that easy. Yes. It is that easy, right? The less you question this, the less analytical you get, the more money that you will make, right? We have people who bought convert wholesale deals here, and they're like, their mind shit just can't go back, right? Yep. You just can't go back. So let me talk about
Yeah.
that. Are we clear on affirmations, by the way?
I think so. I mean, do you
Like,
have something? So you're basically just talking about, I mean, is there something specific? Can you give like some specific language that has helped you out in the affirmations? Or are you just saying, I do big, massive deals of X amount, or
no,
I do
like
deals of this size?
for me is like I do wholesale deals and I make a minimum of 50K profit per deal, right? My deal size are
Beautiful.
ever increasing and I feel more confident. So what you want to do is you want to attach a specific number, right? You also want to attach the emotion.
Yep.
Right? So my confidence is ever increasing, my deal size is ever increasing, my joy is constantly increasing, right? And by the way, if there's some conflict that you feel with that, fine. But you got to say it to yourself and speak truth to yourself, right? Of where you're trying to go, right? And if you need to change your affirmations, that's fine, right? But just, I'll say that again. Number one, choose a number. Number two, attach emotion to it. Those are the two main things, right? And if it doesn't feel right, say it again and say it again and say it again and say it again until it does feel right. But these can be fluid, right? These can be fluid.
The emotion part is critical. It is absolutely critical. If you're living in your parents' house, if you're living on the wrong side of town, if you want to get your kids into the best schools and have the best opportunities, these are the emotions that Todd's talking about, connecting to these goals, to these affirmations. Like, this is what these opportunities happen. When you get these big, massive deals, it changes not only your brain chemistry, but it changes the opportunities you have to grow your business and to get out of debt, to be able to move, to be able to set up a life somewhere where you want. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. So attaching those emotions is, I mean, don't just go with a pen and paper and just, go through the motions and not attach the emotion to it. You should imagine that pen has all the emotions that you have bottled up inside you, and you're putting it into that piece of paper every single day that you're writing these affirmations.
Oh, absolutely.
Love it, Todd.
Yeah. By the way, also I created like a cheat sheet for how to say your affirmations, and that's also in convertwholesaledeals.com. So if you want to check that out, that's fine. Let's talk about number two, and this is confidence, right? Obviously, this builds on affirmations, right? But if you notice, the people who make the most money, right? I had some. We did a live event, right? And someone came up to me and says, like, the people doing really well, they just have different aura about them. You and Brent, like you guys have the it factor, right? And I'm like, well, guys, I'm like, we still put on our pants, one leg at a time, just like you, right? But a lot of this comes by, number one, intentionally building our confidence, right? But number two, it's intentional, right?
Yep.
Is that you gain confidence by, number one, keeping promises to yourself. So just the very fact that if you say affirmations, right, and you take that commitment, you're going to build on your confidence. If you tell yourself you're going to work out and you work out, right? Guess what? You build credibility with yourself. All right. Two ways that you can build confidence, right? Obviously, you can build your internal confidence, but the other part about this is building confidence with your sellers. If your sellers are confident that you can get the deal done, your price, okay, will drastically go through the floor. Mm-hmm. Okay. How do I know this? Because I have dealt with contractors. Okay. And I don't know if I don't know if you've ever dealt with a contractor, but I've had my share of good results and bad results, right? And so I've shopped for discount contractors on my primary residence, and hasn't turned out. Sometimes it's turned out good. Most of the time it turns out bad. And long story short, we had a high-end contractor come to our house. He was extremely confident, right? Talked about all the other things that the other contractors did wrong, really focused on himself. I guarantee you this guy has a minimum profit in his mind that he wants to make. Long story short, my wife is like, I don't care what this guy costs. Okay. We're hiring him.
Wow. Yep.
Right. And guess who paid the price that day? Okay. This guy. Right. So you got to build the seller's confidence in yourself. And that day, the contractor did the best. So one of the things that you can do with a seller to build their confidence with you, which also increases your value, which enables you to come in at a lower price and make a larger profit, which will in turn increase your bank account, is to run the show, right? And this is not for every personality type, but it works for 3 out of the 4, is you want to get verbal commitments from your seller, right? So a lot of these people, they're natural procrastinators. They don't want to fix the property. They don't want to deal with a tenant. They don't want to deal with a probate situation. They don't want to deal with foreclosure. They don't want to deal with taxes or whatever these problems are. The reason why they're selling to you is because they're a natural procrastinator. So they want someone like you to come in and take charge and tell them what to do step by step, or at the very least, have them come to the conclusion of what to do next. So at every step of the process, you ask the seller, what needs to happen for us to do business today? What is the next step? How do we define that? What's the date and time for you to be able to say yes or no? And no is fine. I just want to know how we can get on the same page and we can decide if we can do business or if you need to go enlist with a real estate agent or another option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, when you say this, it gives you confidence in two ways. Number one, you feel great because you're not chasing the deal, right? I'm pushing it away. But number two, the seller feels great because like, wow, this guy's a professional. They like when you get a verbal commitment from somebody, like they know that you've been to school, right? They're like, whoa, this guy is not. Are you tracking with me, Brent? By the way?
Yes, 100%.
You know, they know like, okay, this guy comes to play, right? Brent was a football player. If someone comes in and they come out and you know, you sack the quarterback, you're like, whoa, these guys, you know, aren't joking around, right? And so you gain the seller's respect by getting commitments.
How do you, Todd, how do you start building up that confidence if you're new to this, if you're coming from a different industry, if you've been in the military forever, because it's a different kind of confidence. It's a confidence in being able to communicate effectively with distressed property owners. So do you suggest role playing? Do you suggest scripts? Do you suggest, you know what I mean? Like, if talk to somebody that's completely fresh in this thing and they don't have the experience to speak the language, what advice would you give them?
Okay. Well, there's three things. Number one, and again, and I know we've talked about this a lot, but our no limit selling system, if you go to convertwholesaledeals.com, right? I'm always going to tell you to buy that, always. And I will not apologize because price is embarrassing for the value that you'll get, right? And by the way, we'll continue to give away everything right now we can for free, right? Yep. So convertwholesaledeals.com. When you educate, right, yourself, your confidence goes up.
That's it. 100%. Right?
When you role play, and by the way, even if you don't buy this, if you role play, guess what? Your confidence goes up. If you're totally, broke, watch these videos. I got like 2 or 3 other videos on this channel, right? Yep. Watch those videos with Brent.
By the way, if you're listening to this podcast, you can check out some of the other interviews training really is. It's not even an interview. It's more of a training that Todd and I did, or more specifically, Todd did on the Brent Daniels YouTube channel. So definitely check that out if you are listening to this on the podcast.
So yeah, you can watch those free videos and do awesome. And I had a client one time living in his car, right? And I'm like, oh, this, I'm like, I'm not sure this guy's going anywhere, right? But he got the stuff and implemented it and did some deals, right? And he built on himself. And imagine how low your confidence is living in your car, right? And so step by step, you build it up gradually, right? The other part about this actually, and that's going to be in step number 3, and I'm going to talk about this, is taking chances. Taking chances, right? You got to be able to take some chances, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But going back to confidence, right, is that when you're dealing with a seller, you got to learn how to be reluctant, right? And you got to be reluctant while also having confidence. So one of the things I tell new wholesalers, if you're brand new, is don't be scared of losing the deal. And it's really hard to kill a motivated seller. And if you actually kill the deal, you actually didn't kill it. It was already dead.
Yep.
And so if you tell Mr. Seller, say, look, if I'm going to buy your property, Mr. Seller, I've got to be able to make a profit, right? And I'm not sure, if we can come to terms on this and you feel good about it and I feel good about it, right? I can take on this project, right? But I'm not going to be able to buy at a price where I can't make money. So knowing that, would it be worth continuing the conversation?
And will you repeat that third one? I clicked my AirPods in my pocket and I think we lost the first part of that audio.
In terms of, number 2. So we're still on number 2, but we talked about reluctant confidence. So being reluctant with a seller, right? But also being confident so they get the deal done. Maybe I'm not the best option for you, Mr. Seller, right? I know you want 140. I can only pay 100. If you want 140, I can give you the name of 3 real estate agents who might be able to list it for you, right? But you see how confident I am? Like they're like, I can't believe this guy is telling me to call real estate agents, right? And so I throw it away. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
Yep.
Right? It was meant
Yep.
to be. But I'll tell you what, if I'm over like, please, Mr. Seller, sell to me so I can make $6,000, please, please, please. Right? They're gonna run to their real estate agent anyway, and you're gonna live in what I call wholesaler poverty. Okay. Don't live in wholesaler poverty. It's an epidemic. Okay. That's the real epidemic going on right now. Right. So, right. So, you got to have the ability to throw away the deal. Okay. Now, number 3 falls into this, and that's go out there and take some chances.
Yep.
Right. What, you could take a chance, by the way, by throwing away a deal. Say, Mr. Seller, we may not be a fit. You don't have to do business with us. Right. And that's okay. But you can also take chances by going lower than you normally would. So what is the reason why we don't go low on a deal, right? Where we're talking to a seller, we're negotiating, and they say they want 200, and we come in and offer 100, right? Well, we say that. I don't know about you, right? But I was scared to death to lose a deal when I first got started.
To create that friction, to like build up that wall that they build up so that they don't want to talk to us anymore, that they don't want to communicate, that, you're almost, you don't want to offend somebody. Like that's the cardinal sin, is offending a motivated seller, and then you lose the deal, and then you're frustrated, and then it attacks your confidence, and then you stop, writing down your goals. Like it all affect you. Start thinking all these wild things in your head when you really don't have to.
Well, part of that goes back to confidence, right? So all of these things work together, right? So if I say, Mr. Seller, like, what if Mr. Seller, I know you're asking 200. What if I could give you, I don't know, $100,000, right? I got a smile on my face,
right?
But that makes all the difference in the world. But if I say, look, I'm only giving you $100,000,
yep,
right? That's different than saying, Mr. Seller, what if I'm not saying this is the end all but what if I could give you $100,000? Is that something that you'd even consider, or probably not?
Right.
I'm showing this confidence, but I'm friendly. I'm giving myself room, and a little bit of this comes with skill, and a cushion is finesse, right? I got like a little swagger, right? That will project, and the seller can say, "There's no way I would take 200. You must be kidding." I'll be like, "Well, okay, fine. You want 200? I'm at 100. What's the lowest you take?" Yep. Right now, instead of going up to that, maybe I get that deal at 170 where I would have gotten it at 190.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And so you've got to take a chance. You can't be scared of losing the deal. I tell you what, I'd rather lose a couple of $6,000 deals, right, and get a $90,000 deal. You know what I'm saying, right?
Absolutely.
Well,
and I think a lot of that, it comes to not only taking a chance on the price, but just taking the chance of going after these properties and not overthinking it. As you're driving through the neighborhoods and you see a rundown house and there's a ton of cars in the front of it, well, write down that address or go to the door if you feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Take action right away. If you see a sign that's a for sale by owner and it looks like a rough house, call that sign immediately. Don't overthink it. Take a chance. Every day you got to be taking chances, and I'm telling you, these days build on each other, and all of a sudden, 1, you've got confidence. 2, you're achieving the affirmations that you're writing down every day, and then all of a sudden those affirmations go from I do $10,000 a deal to $20,000 a deal to $50,000 a deal to $100,000 a deal. This is real life, but taking that chance is another way of saying be super proactive. Don't overthink it, and do it with the 2 things that Todd Toback taught my company. We have it on our wall. We have it in our office. It is the number 1 thing that we point to when we're talking about negotiation, and that is certainty and likability. Certainty and likability. That is a beautiful mixture. It's the perfect mixture of being able to have that confidence, but also being able to have the right tone of voice and build the right rapport and the right relationship so that you are likable. Did you see when Todd turned it off there and he said he was talking about, well, maybe I could, would you take 100,000 as opposed to just going right at him and being aggressive? It's a totally different tone. There's likability there. Likability is the most underrated aspect of this business. And I'm telling you, if you start working on your certainty and your likability, you are going to be unstoppable. Hold on a second, Todd. I'm going to give one of these. Oh!
Brent, it's funny because sometimes we have different styles, right? But those core tenets that we talk about, they're actually the same, right? Likability and certainty. And so like we talk about these principles, right, in the no limit selling system that just you can be who you are, right? Like our personalities are different but the same.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
that like you're very, very, very likable and you're very, very confident, but it's in a different way. I can't even put it into words,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
But the fact, I love the fact that you just talked about like, hey, if you see something, go for it. So I would tell you this, like I've seen a lot of analytical, if you're an analytical, right? And if you like love looking at the computer and comps and spreadsheets, those actually, you are going to have to really, really, really work on this, right? And you can, and you will, right? But those are the people who struggle the most because they want to spend their time analyzing the property and then making an offer based on logic. And this is not logic, right? Obviously, you need to go on emotion. Emotion.
Yep.
That's where all of these, and that's where your affirmations will kick in. Because all of a sudden, if you start looking at a spreadsheet on what you think you should make, right? That's where your affirmations need to really, really, really come in. Let me move into the.
I think it's the toughest, Todd. I think it's the toughest in the beginning. But I have seen time and time again, and this is just the absolute truth in my experience with the people that I've been around or coached or even heard from or just reaching out to on social media. The analyticals, once they get past that threshold and they are taking consistent action, they are beasts. I mean, they make the most that in my experience because they stick to the plan. They understand this is a numbers game.
Yeah.
And once they once they pour in that certainty, likability, and that emotional part of it, it's absolutely unstoppable, and you can't get them to shut up.
Yeah, well, that's part of it too, because then they break over that hump, and then they're steady. And that's when you get really, really dangerous, right?
Yep.
Really, really, really dangerous. So we're kind of running out of time here, Brent. I've got 2 or 3 minutes here, but let me talk about the fourth and final here, right? And that is when you get a deal, slow the heck down.
Yep.
Right? Slow the heck down. You sold once, but in this business, if you're wholesaling, right, or you're keeping or you're wholesaling or flipping, you sell this deal twice, right? And so now is the time when you're dealing with your cash buyers. Guess what? You need certainty. Yep. Right? You need certainty that there's going to be competition right behind them. You need certainty that if they don't buy this property, right, somebody else will. You need certainty that if you don't sell it to this cash buyer, right, that you can take this deal down yourself, right? And by the way, you may not be thinking this today. You're brand new, but guess what? I want to let you know, if you're watching this, that you got $1 million of capital right now in your network that is ready to flow into your life, right? Yep. And so you just got to know that, right? And so slow down, go back to your affirmations. When you've got a deal, close your eyes and say, this is what I want to make. This is how I'm going to make it. And once you start talking that way, you start to turn levers, right? So if you locked up a bad deal up front, you talk to your seller and you push them up. Now, if you're not at that, right, one of the things has to happen. Either your seller now either has to come down on price or your buyer has to come up to meet your minimum standard. Yep. Okay. And now that happens in our company. And so knowing that, slow the heck down. It's not a race to the finish to sell your deal. You've done the work, put it through the finish line, make 50K a day. Okay. and move on to the next one. So those are my 4 tips for you today. There's a lot more than
Absolutely
that.
Incredible.
I'm just real excited to go out there, say your affirmations, write them down, put the emotion, get the amount. Number 2, you got to build your confidence, right? Do that by getting verbal commitments with the seller, right? Have them confidence with you. You want them to also, you want to have a reluctant confidence in that. 3, you got to take chances. Can't be scared of losing the deal. It's okay to go low. Watch your tonality. And 4, slow the heck down.
Yep. Convert Wholesale Deals, guys. It is the training program. I don't care if you're new or if you have a team of 10 acquisition managers. The top people in the country use this training, and that's why they're the top companies in the country. So definitely check it out, convertwholesaledeals.com. Todd, you are the man. I love it. Thank you for these 4 are going to really make a huge impact. So thank you so much for that. Anybody out there that is interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, it is the TTP family. Go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP, wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Check out what the program is about. If it feels good in your gut, sign up for a call. I'd love to work with you personally. Todd, till next time, brother, you're the man. And for everybody out there, guys, I always encourage you to talk to people. Until next time, guys, love you. See ya.